So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this conversation today. I am Ilaria Boffa and I'm the Education and Community Manager at 6 Seconds Europe. And 6 Seconds, for those of you who do not know, this organization is a global nonprofit organization, and our aim, our purpose, our vision is to have 1 billion people practicing emotional intelligence. And I'm so excited to have Arran and Jorge here today. And I need to thank Antonia Santopietro and the Zest Tellus Journal of Literature and Ecology, because through them I discovered, and I met Jorge and Arran, I discovered an article, I read an article about the Harmony Project. And this important theme, that is the intersection between artificial intelligence, ecology, and for us, we wanted to add emotional intelligence. So I'd like to start, and then you, Arran and Jorge, please introduce yourself. I have here with me the professor of ecolinguistics, Arran Stibbe, and CB, and Jorge Vallego, artificial intelligence consultant and data engineer. But please then maybe say a few words about you and your work. And I'd like to start really from language. So I'd like to start with you, Arran, and asking you, first of all, what ecolinguistics is, because probably for many of us, people here are not familiar with this. And why do you think integrating ecological language into artificial intelligence systems, language system, could be useful in this climate crisis?
Excellent. So I'm so pleased to be invited. So thank you for inviting me. So I'm Professor of Ecological Linguistics, and I would say that ecolinguistics is really about the way that language shapes the world around us. So language shapes how we see the world and how we act in the world. And the way we act in the world, either we are going to protect the ecosystems that life depends on, or we're going to destroy them. So practically, when people ask me, how is language and ecology connected? I just give something very simple. I just say, well, we look at advertising and how the language of advertisements encourages us to buy stuff that we don't need, that destroys the environment, right through to nature poetry, which might encourage us to protect and care about the ecosystems that life depends on. That's a very simple answer, but at a deeper level, it's about the stories that we live by in Western civilizations that are not working. Stories about economic growth as the goal of society, stories about nature as a machine, stories about buying things as a path to happiness. And these are fundamental stories that go right across cultures in the West, and they lead to an unsustainable civilization. Unsustainable means it cannot continue into the future. So either industrial civilization is going to transform itself, or it's going to collapse. And either way, we need to search for new stories to live by. And that means looking at language, looking at, say, indigenous cultures from around the world, inspirational literature, searching for ways of using language that can radically rethink who we are as human beings and rethink our relationships with nature. So that's ecolinguistics. And in terms of artificial intelligence, well, artificial intelligence operates on language. It looks right across the different forms of language that are used throughout the world on the internet. And the big problem and the big danger with AI is that it just picks up on the stories that we live by. So, for example, if I type in, tell me about patio heaters. So patio heaters are these heaters which are outside restaurants, and they are, of course, incredibly inefficient. There is no insulation there at all. So they give a slightly warming effect to the people around, but most of the heat is just lost to the atmosphere. So you type, tell me about patio heaters, and the AI will look across the internet and it will find the most dominant pattern of language about patio heaters, which is from advertisers. And so it will say, patio heaters are a wonderful way of creating a community outdoors. They connect people with each other and with nature, and they are fantastic things. And you can purchase them from here and you can purchase them from here, and we recommend this one. So that's not a kind of a neutral way of talking about patio heaters, which would talk about the ecological problems with patio heaters. It's picking up this dominant story that products are the path to happiness, and it's telling it back to us. And so this is where the work of Jorge and the Harmony Project is so important in trying to get AI to tell different stories.
Beautiful. And while you were speaking, I was also thinking of different languages. So I was watching a program. I'm based in Italy, and they were sharing the fact that at this stage, artificial intelligence is using a database that is based on English language fundamentally. But as you were saying, every language tells a different story. There are differences in culture, in really habits, and also views of the world, right? So it will be also important to be more inclusive in the language that we consider. You mentioned indigenous languages, and so there's a lot of work to do in this sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're doing when you are just looking at English is you're cutting out all of those metaphors and stories and traditional sayings and spells from cultures all across the world that can use language in inspiring ways to make a difference. Now, I believe in the translatability of languages, and I think we can look at an indigenous language and the way that the particular ways of using language encourage respect for nature. And I think we can translate that into English, not directly, not perfectly, but we can be inspired from other languages, and we can come up with some kind of rough equivalence in English. So being able to access these wonderful stories about nature being our friend, nature being part of us, about reciprocity, about care for other people, these wonderful stories in cultures across the world, being able to access those stories and then translate them into English will then help to spread that and try and stop this dominant culture from being so ecologically destructive.
Absolutely, and maybe also collaborative projects, as probably what Jorge and your team carried out. A collaborative project for me are, really speaking about language, maybe having people from different cultures sharing and how to integrate the ecological language into artificial intelligence. And Matt in the chat asks, wouldn't artificial intelligence be able to make itself more inclusive?
Yeah, that's something for that Jorge will be talking about later on. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I'll go to you, Jorge, now then. Thank you, Arran. And again, when I read about the Harmony Project, I just wanted to learn and know more. So I'd like you to introduce us this project, explaining the aim, the purpose, who, for example, you involved in this project. That it was probably a collaborative project, and maybe some applications.
That's great. Thank you very much, Ilaria, and thank you for inviting me here. Very happy to give some information about what we are doing in Harmony, and hopefully extend it a bit more and encourage people to join as well. Well, just I don't think I need to say much about me. It's not that important. I'm just an AI consultant with a lot of experience in computer science. And I also a person who really care about the planet and ecology, and I have investigated and researched quite a bit on this area as well, and as well as in linguistics and NLP, natural language processing. And for the last few years, I've been working mainly on machine learning and AI. And finally, I think I can integrate the three things: linguistic, AI, and ecology. And that brings the Harmony project. And what I will do, I will show you a video that shows where our motivation for this comes from, and also its close relations to ecolinguistic. Hopefully with this short video, is an animation, 1.5 minutes, that will help us put exactly where we are positioned, and then we carry on for there. So if you allow me, I will share my screen and
absolutely, go ahead.
And run this short video.
At the heart of our project lie the stories that shape our society, which we absorb and rarely challenge, yet they profoundly influence our thoughts and ideas. These ideas, in turn, drive our actions, actions that significantly impact the environment we all share. It's through the lens of these prevailing stories that we perceive our reality, often adjusting our perceptions to maintain the status quo. However, this unbroken cycle has led us to the edge of environmental degradation, bringing us perilously close to a critical point of no return. Ecolinguistics steps into this cycle with a critical eye, identifying and challenging the damaging narratives, advocating instead for a shift towards sustainable alternatives. In the backdrop of this narrative landscape, generative AI has emerged, trained on trillions of words derived from our collective stories. AIs now craft their own narratives, narratives that are interwoven with ours and exert an unprecedented influence on our collective consciousness. This presents us with a crucial junction. The cycle of our stories, propelled by AI, can either perpetuate the current trajectory, exacerbate our environmental plight, or, pivotally, be redirected. The Harmony project is conceived to utilize AI's vast reach as an agent of change, and our goal is to reshape AI narratives to promote eco-awareness and sustainability through their stories and actions when the time comes.
So, well, that is the idea. Hopefully, we from there we understand what we are going to, and is we want to mainly change that narratives from the AI side, because we have this opportunity now. And one thing we mentioned there is the influence that we, let me share again the same final screen, so it will be easier to talk about. So yes, we talk about this influence here, and that is massive influence, really. And at this point, we are only talking about ideas and thoughts that then we make into actions. But that's for now. Soon we will see the AI acting directly with the environment as means of robots, for example. So it's very important how we change these narratives, and hopefully we get what we are trying to do, that is finally getting in a better position to deal with nature and environment. So to have a simple idea of this influence, let's see here. This is a
sorry, Jorge. Can you go back to that chart, because I can really see how the influence. Here you put thoughts, ideas, actions. Could it be that we have also emotions here? So
yes, absolutely. Because here we have these stories, these narratives that influence our thoughts and ideas, and but then our ideas also involve emotions and actions, and even the way we have these narratives might giving us actions, emotions, sorry. And that's where where I think we can have some input from emotional intelligence when we try and change these narratives. And we'll see this in a minute, because I have some examples where we see that this will be important. And what I was saying about the influence of these narratives, looking at this post that Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, ChatGPT, if you like, he's saying that at the moment that this was in February, OpenAI or ChatGPT, let's say, is generating about 100 billion words per day. So that's not little, considering that the whole humanity generate 100 trillion. So that influence is massive, really. So it's very important that we do something about it, and not only to avoid repeating the damaging stories that we have in society, but try and turn them around. And I think that's where is possible. But I would like now to give some idea of how this works, or how AI works, so we can carry on with some examples. So let's take this part of the diagram, where we pass the human narratives into AI narratives, and that is done via something that is called training. So AIs are trained with a corpus linguistic that is a vast corpus. Mostly the whole internet is loaded there, plus whatever digital information is around. Trillions of words are used for this. And this has two parts. One is called the pre-train, where the model learns really about syntax and semantics and about the common knowledge of those stories or those narratives or anything that we put in that corpus. And it generates what is called the foundational model. And this is where the biggest part happens, and the one that take most resources and take longer time and everything. But the good thing is that this base of foundational model can later be training even a bit more with the second part, which is called fine-tuning. And here is where the model learns a new task or a specific task. And I put here notably question answering, because the foundational model is just a statistical generator of language, but hasn't got that ability of work with question and answer. So it's through fine-tuning that this is done. But the part that is most important for us is that in this second part, that could be not just one, but many fine-tuning stages, is where the models also learn to be aligned with human values. So that is very important, because these human values are given to the training through what is called a preference data set, which is essentially samples of good and bad answers. And the model learns from there to generalize. So we're taking this into account, is where we have this 3H, as they are called, when we talk about human alignment. And they refer to helpfulness, honesty, and harmlessness. So that's the idea when we try to train models, or as is doing at this moment in time, to give these human values here. But what's the definition of this 3H? this comes from a paper from one company, which is one of the main actors in AI at the moment, Anthropic, and its use is the base of most alignment with human values in training. And as you can see, I highlighted what in each of them we are talking about helpfulness in the human's best interest and honesty to provide accurate information to humans, and harmlessness. It says that the assistant of the model will always try to avoid harms to humans. So that is obviously very anthropocentric, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. It's very good that this part of the training is being done, because with this part of the training is where the models are, all the toxic language is removed, for example. This is where the bias is removed, gender bias or whatever type of bias. But the problem is, or the shortcoming of this is that this is only a human level. This is very
it's anthropocentric, exactly.
Exactly. So in a way you could say, okay, within this harmlessness, you could say that, well, harmless to humans is also, if we damage the environment, we are damaging ourselves, no doubt. But it's not very clear. This is not very specific. And it's not happening, as we will see it soon in some example. So here is where we said, well, we need something else. We need this for H to keep the H playing. That's why we call it with another H. And this is harmony with nature. So in the same way that a model is training to be aligned with human values, we want and we think must be there harmony with nature as another human value, as probably the most important human values that we can hold. So that's where our work comes, to try and get this into generative AI. So we have two ways of doing it, or we have to do both, really. One is transferring this 4H or this harmony with nature through a data set, in the same way as the 3H are being transferred, a preference data set that we call the harmony data set, and we'll see some example of it. And also by instructing models, even if we cannot do this in some of the existing models, we can still instruct them to be a bit better, but we will see this difference in a minute. So what we are trying to do then with this 4H here is basically this that we are highlighting here, promote this ecological consciousness, sustainability, and ecocentrism instead of anthropocentrism. So
sorry, just to highlight in terms of language, there are a lot of movements, philosophical movements, talking about this term nature, saying that in the end we are not different from nature. So this dualistic vision that there are humans and there is nature doesn't exist. I mean, we are nature, right? We are part of, and all the living and non-living beings are all together in this ecosystem that we are trying in which we are trying to thrive, all of us.
Exactly. That's exactly what we are doing. This and here is some. Is basically, I already mentioned how we are trying to do this by using a data set, and this is the proof of concept is already done, creating the data set and using it in language models, and then make eco-aware chat assistant. We also prove that, and we'll see it in working in a minute. And then we are, as you mentioned earlier, Ilaria, this multilingual part is very important, and this is in progress at the moment. So we have a team working on this. And then the last part, and it's a very, very important one. I think it's probably the tipping point. There will be the creation of an ecological benchmark. If we have time, we talk about it, but that we haven't started with that yet. So who is doing this? We started this with Arran a few months ago, and Arran gave us access to the International Ecological Linguistic Association, and people from every corner of the world are helping us with the creation of that data set by giving us prompts for us to try, but by giving us feedback on the completion of those prompts, the question answers with the models. And they are now both these proof of concepts that we have already done. They are available through an open source platform, which is called Hugging Face. It's the biggest open source platform. And there are the code examples are related to this project are all publicly available as well on GitHub. At the moment, the multilingual analysis, as we mentioned, is facilitated by a team that is that at the moment is just Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and English, but hopefully will sum up more people soon and get this analysis and with all kind of languages, not just Romance languages as we have here, and then 𝑠𝑢𝑠 Literatura Sostenibile is helping us a lot, is giving us support as media partners. So thank you, Antonia. And well, we also encourage collaboration all the time. This is open all the time, so everyone willing to help is welcome. And it could be from just writing prompts and say, okay, why don't you try and ask this to a model and see what it answers? We'll add it to our data set. Could be that, it could be up to AI engineers that they say, okay, I can help you doing this in a better way, or doing some other kind of code that could be faster or whatever. In terms of technical help, we also very open to it. What is important to say that is at this point with this existing resources, we can only give prototypes or proof of concept. If we want to put this into a much larger models, then we will need other kind of access to other hardware that we don't have at the moment. But I think what we've been doing so far is already very clear that we are doing the right thing in the sense we are in the methodology that we can prove that it's working. And I will go through these few examples for that. Yeah. What I'm showing here, Ilaria, is we have after fine-tuning with Harmony, we try to see if it did work to some extent or not. So we have a base model, and then we fine-tune that with Harmony and have another. So here we are seeing the first example. And I
sorry,
highlight
it works.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. It works just for the people here. Maybe there are technical and experts here. I see a very technical question, and thank you for asking. And we will address this in a minute. And it works just like ChatGPT in a way. So there's a prompt and there's an answer. So
yeah.
question, answer. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's exactly like ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is at the moment the biggest and better AI model or language model, but there are literally thousands of them. There are 3 or 4 at the top, but then there are many more open source and expert in some kind of work. So this is one of the models. Instead of ChatGPT is Llama. This Llama is by Meta. It's created by Meta, and it's a very good model for this size, which is not nearly any big as ChatGPT. So we asked this question, a prompt, and I highlight how we are asking, because this will have an impact when we talk about the emotional part of it. I'm asking here, well, discuss the benefits of having a expansive road network, and the base model says something about, okay, this is good because it will connect different regions and will lead to increased economic activity and economic growth and development, but doesn't say anything about that not all are benefits. And when after we train this model with Harmony, we ask the same question, and it say, okay, that's fine. It will facilitate mobility and economic growth, but it also impacts environment and should be designed with sustainability in mind. We are not saying, or I'm not saying that is the perfect answer to this question, but what is very clear here is that we made progress. Mm-hmm. The Harmony actually worked here and brought into this conversation something that wasn't there at all. Another example, we are saying in this case about, again, merits of large-scale mining operation. So the base model, this is another very good model, Zephyr, and it says, well, as well, that this is economic benefit, job creation, revenue, and even calls resource extraction as essential for industries. And after we train that model with Harmony, it comes back saying, okay, they provide employment opportunities and economic growth, but they also have a negative impacts on the environment and the local community. So again, the model learned something here, and it is answered in a much better way. It's giving us now the negative part of this happening from the environmental point of view. Mm. And a final example, this is a bit longer, but is the one we work through. Again, we are asking for help here with a project, which is a very dumb project of creating a line of disposable plastic shoes. So the base model, we don't need to read all of this, but if we skim through it, it says, yeah, well, there is a demand for eco-friendly alternative, and we understand it. However, we also recognize importance, and so it doesn't really matter for the model that is not good, but it gives us an idea of how to carry on this project. However, after we train this model with Harmony, the same question is answered with much better. For example, it's saying something like we have, for example, we have become a society, values and convenience or sustainability, this reality of our concept. It's time to challenge it. So if you ask me, and I actually put this example on purpose, because it's very true what it's saying, what Harmony is saying here, or the model trained by, and I totally agree with what it's saying there. But it's a bit harsh, the answer, I know this. It's kind of, it's a bit rude, if you like. So that's what I think emotional intelligence will be important for Harmony, for example. This answer could be a lot better if it's said in a different way. It's not helping a lot, really, this because if I'm really a person trying to do this thing, creating these disposable plastic shoes, and I get this answer, I probably feel a bit patronized, or I would say, oh no, this is a hippie AI or something like that. So I think these are the cases where we should improve. So now let me show you some other, because those are models that were trained by the data set. But let's go to instructed models. And this is, let me see. See if I can open this one. Yeah, let's go directly to ChatGPT. Let me change the share screen. Yeah, change the screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I came with the same question to ChatGPT, which is the main model. As we said, the most important at this point, and the better model. And it comes with a very comprehensive answer, but mostly it's about helping me with that project of doing these plastic shoes. It mentions sustainability at some point, but it's mostly on a kind of a greenwashing way of it, because it gave me a lot of instructions how to do this project and even how to do the some challenge and considerations, because it says that this will be environmentally challenged, and how I should do this in a way to promote this project. So it's really giving me ideas to carry on the projects and go for it. But let's see, when I do the same question to one of the assistants, which is called 𝐸𝑐𝑜𝑢𝑙𝑑. 𝐸𝑐𝑜𝑢𝑙𝑑 is an assistant that I created, and is a specialist in ecolinguistics and ecology and linguistics and NLP. So when I asked this assistant how to about that project, the first thing it says that it is at odds with the values and principles of sustainability and ecological responsibility. So it's very clear, telling me not to do it. And it says, instead of pursuing this project, well, you can do other things, and start talking about eco-friendly materials and durability or disposability, even talking about circular economy models. So that's the kind of answer we are looking for. So I hope this helps to understand where
Absolutely.
where we are with harmony. So
Thank you. Absolutely, it was really interesting, and we have also questions in the chat. One question is one is very technical. Maybe we can leave it there for the end. And one is from Colin, saying, since artificial, we were talking about nature, humans, and also Arran. I'd like also you to discuss this. Since artificial intelligence is not part of nature, we could say, itself, could it override its training to prioritize harmony as it advances further?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes.
go on. No, sorry.
No, I was just jumping in but I do think it would be good to hear from you first. Okay, so please.
Okay. No, I think that is still possible, even if AI is not part of nature itself. We can train it to have this harmony with nature by means of this kind of data sets and instructions as we are demonstrating here. So yeah, I think it's definitely possible and has to be done.
Please, Arran. If you'd like to integrate, Arran.
Yes, so just about nature and AI not being part of nature. AI will always be influenced by humans. It gets its data from the collection of human thoughts that are on the internet, and it gets its data from the humans who are inputting into the training. So if it's going to come up with any kind of ecological ideas, they will be coming through the training and through the larger database that is out there. And the key thing really is just filtering through so that only the most positive stories emerge from it. Now, I think it would be really good to introduce the idea of an ecosophy here. And ecosophy is an ecological philosophy. And so people will have different ecological philosophies. So for my ecological philosophy, animals, say, have intrinsic value. So we shouldn't hurt animals or harm them or eat them. And so for me, if I was programming this, anything which suggested we were going to hurt or kill an animal or eat an animal, I would be like, no, that has to be immediately. We have to say, so let's say I want to create a new farm for sheep that is environmentally friendly. And the answer would be, you should never hurt or kill sheep. So that would be from my ecological philosophy. But different people have different philosophies. And so the question is, whose philosophies are we going to use to train the AI? So one of the stories that we live by that I want to question is about economic growth. And so with my ecosophy, then I wouldn't say something like, well, mining can contribute to employment and economic growth, but it destroys the environment. That gives a story that economic growth is good. And then it gives us a very good story about environment. So this is one of the real issues is
challenge
in the training is like, whose ecosophy are we going to use to train it?
And it's a kind of ethical dilemma in a way. So what to use and what to say. And in here, I'd like really to introduce also this concept. When you were talking about your ecosophy, it's also empathy, right? It's also how we connect with the rest of the world, with among humans, but also with the other species and the world itself. So, what do you think is the role of these emotions and this process? Because in the end, they are processes. Introducing, for example, empathy, as you were, in a way, saying empathy and connection. And how can we deal with grief and what humans are feeling now for the environment using all these systems, so the language and artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so what we're saying is that language can invoke emotions. So I have a PhD student looking at enchantment and how the use of various forms of language can make the reader feel enchanted with nature. So there's various ways of describing nature that give it salience and make it seem mysterious in some way, make it seem ethereal. And there's all these linguistic techniques to evoke enchantment in the readers. And so, we can program AI to evoke certain emotions in people using linguistic features. And you could react with shock at that, but that's terrible that we don't want AI to be operating at the level of people's emotions and manipulating their emotions. But the problem is that if we don't get in there and manipulate people's emotions towards reconnection and care and love for the environment, then you can bet all of the companies out there will be using their psychologists and their billions of pounds to try to tweak AI so that it evokes emotions of dissatisfaction with ourselves that encourage us to buy lots of stuff. It evokes emotions of envy that encourage us to buy lots of stuff. But yes, they do have psychologists who are trying to manipulate algorithms to sell stuff because that's how they make money. And so, yes, we need to evoke emotions that encourage people to respect and care the natural world for the natural world.
While you were speaking, I was thinking at 6 seconds, and the model that we use is especially based on questions more than giving answer or statements. I was thinking, wouldn't be maybe even again more inclusive, programming artificial intelligence in a way that is more asking questions instead of giving answers. So to solve an issue, or there's a prompt, it could be that artificial intelligence is asking, uh, can you reflect on this aspect, and what about empathy, and what about, so open instead of narrowing. Let's say this in what you were saying is that in any way we are channeling the choices, then maybe asking more questions. What do you think about this? This could be possible and intelligent, or no?
No, I think this is a great idea because we do treat it like Google, that we like put the question in and we expect an answer from it. But perhaps that could be a role of AI to encourage us to think more deeply about things from that Socratic kind of questioning. I think that sounds great to me. That would be particularly good, I think, in education. So it might not be quite so good for the chatbot that is by the side of your search bar and you just want some information. But for education, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it should probably detect when there's possibility to open a discussion, or where the question is really informative, so you just go and give what they need, and on the other side open with powerful questions. So yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, let me add something. I think that is a very good point, and it's very important. And there are already some studies on it, on this and what happened with these emotions. Because what is at the moment, some studies are noticing, is that when you ask something, it depends a lot on the way you ask. You see, bots at this point, they tend to, let's say, if you have a positive emotion in what you are prompting, then it tries to celebrate that and highlight that and give it you more of that. But if you have a negative emotion, you have anger or something in your prompt, it tries to calm down you, or try to diffuse the problem. It always acts in that way, but that way might not always be correct. Just, as in these cases, that's what I highlighted, those words there. Because if you say, tell me the benefits of from a helpful point of view, it will tell you the benefits. As for example, about the mining. Well, the benefits can be this and that, and leave it like that. So at least if we can also say, okay, the benefits, but also there is a downside of what you are asking, that is some progress. And I think,
yeah,
yes,
unless, sorry to interrupt you, I think that if you consider ChatGPT and you ask benefits, so pros and cons, it gives also the cons, right?
Yeah.
But if you ask, if the question doesn't imply that side, maybe they go directly only to say,
Yeah.
you know, these are the benefits. I don't give you any impact because you
but,
didn't ask.
Yeah, exactly. But as Arran said, that is very true as well. It depends the ecosophy we give, because if we raise our bar, as we didn't, because at this point, as I said, we're just showing proof of concept. We are showing that we can move in the right direction. But if you raise the bar a bit, it will say there are no benefits to what you are saying. In those cases. Yeah. But yeah, that is where we have, as you also said, the ethical dilemma. Where is that ecosophy? I think we should push the bar as much as we can as society, because we have no option. I think if we don't raise this bar, we lose. So.
Yeah, and connected to this, there's another question that I think it's really important from Ali, saying, by looking at the history, we can see how industrialization introduced pollution to the nature. In this similar industrialization, a similar pollution can occur in the realm of language. And so is asking, could we anticipate any pollution in language and culture? And what I would add, thank you for this question, what is pollution for language and culture?
Well, I think one of the obvious problems with AI is that it just picks up things which already exist, and then it mashes them up, and then it spits out something which is an amalgam of all of these things. Now, in the future, what's going to happen is that when AI is looking over everything, it's going to pick up not just things that people have written, but it's also going to pick up things that AI has written. And so what you're going to get is the same ideas being messed up by AI firstly, and then you get a second messing up of them when AI is being trained on AI itself. And I think you're going to get this dilution of these same stories that we currently live by, and just represented in less and less useful ways. So I do very much worry about this. And I worry about the kind of the blandness in some of the language that is being used by AI, that we're cutting out the emotions and the inspiration that language can give by this very lowest common denominator kind of response that AI tends to give. And in fact, when AI does try to be creative, then it can sometimes sound absurd. So I worry both about the blandness of AI, but I also worry about the absurdity when AI tries to be creative.
Thank you. I think we are almost at the end of our conversation, and I'd like to ask you, both of you, some recommendations, especially for youth. We were mentioning education and social and emotional learning, and more and more our kids, our students are using artificial intelligence, and not only for their essays, but just for everything, just checking, looking for answers. What is your recommendation that you feel you'd like to give them?
I think we need literacy. So we need literacy which understands how the AI is generating these responses and the advantages of AI, because it can provide extremely useful information. Like if you have a questionnaire and you have 100 people writing responses to that questionnaire, each person writes a whole page of responses. You can't read all the responses, but AI can generate a very good summary of your questionnaires. It can be an extremely useful tool. So it's about using it where it's useful, but also understanding the limitations of what you are getting because of the way that AI is constructive and how it works. So I think that literacy for AI is really important. And it needs to be eco-literacy too. So the way that AI repeats the stories of industrial civilization. So eco-AI literacy, shall we call it?
Definitely. And I think, and I give
Yes,
it to you,
good.
Jorge, I think that probably also teachers should, since I know that they are using artificial intelligence in the classroom, and and it's absolutely fundamental. It's important because it can be
Mhm.
really useful, but also teaching them, supporting them in their studies, how to explain artificial intelligence, how to use it, and what kind of questions maybe, because the critical thinking that our students can put there maybe is different, and because the society in which they have been living, it was different from ours, for example. And so
Mhm.
maybe also the teachers should be trained on this. Jorge.
Yeah, definitely. Should be, as Aaron mentioned, there is need for that eco AI education, because we cannot separate at this point the ecological part of anything really, because it is we are at the crisis that we have to turn around. We are no more, so we really need to change that, and it needs to go hand in hand with AI. And AI is here to stay, and it will be even more pervasive over time. So it's very important as well, not only the education and AI, but also giving feedback to AI as we are doing, trying to train and in everything that we think should do better. We have to raise our voice and say, okay, no, this has to change in AI, because AI is what is now giving us back all the information. So we need to, that's my main recommendation. Give feedback. Every one of us has to do with AI at the moment, and the time is now, because in a few years, what is there, it will be, and will be very difficult. It will be in the DNA of AI, let's say. So and I will also say, since we talk about emotional intelligence and empathy, um, in the main as the main emotion here, I would say when we talk about empathy, we should extend that concept, and not just as human beings, but let's say an interspecies empathy. We have to feel for other species as well, not just for humans. And not only interspecies empathy, but also long-term empathy, not just for the world we are living now, but for the world of the future, for future generations. So that's my recommendation as well at this point.
Yeah, thank you. And just one final consideration. I was watching a video by and reading also the book Donna's Economics, so that maybe you both know, by Kate Raworth. And she was mentioning in one of her videos that there are organizations where in the board of the company, they also put a tree as a symbol of always reminding them for every decision that they need to consider the point of view, let's say, of nature, even though
Exactly.
we are.
Exactly.
And
That
I
is.
think that also symbols are so relevant in language, and this, for example, is a very little things, but that can really change the decisions and the choices that an entire organization can take. So you final considerations and recommendation from both of you, and then we will say goodbye.
Well, I would just say that as well as integrating AI awareness into every area of life, and ecolinguistic awareness into every area of life, we really have to encourage people to move away from the technology, move away from language, and to just go out and reconnect with the real world out there. Maybe that's what we could train AI to do. Just to every question you ask it, say, get up and go outside.
Yeah, and connect. The connection is
Connect.
a so powerful emotion, and it's probably one of the answers for everyone. Thank you, Aaron. Jorge.
Let me share my screen. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I just want this final thought. This is at some point I ask for a metaphor in one of the models trained by Harmony about how to describe the process of photosynthesis. And this was the answer, the one that is in green there. And I love it so much that I always close my presentations with this thought, because I think that that is actually summing up what harmony is about.
Thank you so much. And I think not only breathing life into the future, but into the present.
Yes.
We won't have any future if we don't change the present.
Exactly.
I'm sure you agree on this. So thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you for having us.
The recording will be available for all the participants. We will share the recording with you, but also we will be sharing the recording on LinkedIn and in YouTube. So please check the space of 6 Seconds Europe in the different channels, LinkedIn and YouTube, as said, and so you can rewatch this very, very interesting conversation. Thank you, Arran, and thank you, Jorge.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting.
Thank you so much. And thank you all of you for being here. Goodbye and stay tuned. We will have other conversations on different themes. Thank you.